Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is our mini series for October. We're going to be diving into the 9 dimensions. Now, for the purposes of this mini series, we're only going to cover dimensions 1 through 7. And in this video, we're going to talk about dimensions 1 through 3. So, to those of you who are just now hitting this channel, my name is Dr. Angela Cudger. I'm the founder of Legacy Holistic Health Institute. And this channel is dedicated to the health, wellness, and healing for women over 40. Now, if you found yourself here and you love the content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that you can get more of what we put out. And it lets YouTube know that you like what you see. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back, beautiful. You know we love you. And you know that all of your likes, your shares, and your subscribes mean the freaking world to me. So thank you so much for being here. So we're going to get into the dimensions. So when we're talking about the first dimension, so this is the first thing we need to understand. There are multiple dimensions inside of the universe that we live in. Now, I think everyone knows that what the difference is between galaxies and solar systems and all of those different things. Well, the system that we live inside of has its own rules. And a lot of those rules come from physics, or physics helps explain those rules. And I want you to try to understand these as we go over them because they can be a little bit complex. But if you understand how they work, you can skip timelines, you can drop old habits and patterns, you can exist in a reality where there's a form of you that is living so much more abundantly than you already are. And we're going to talk about that when we get into like the 5th dimension and above. But for the purposes of this particular video, we're going to talk about dimensions 1 through 3. First, second, and third. All right. First dimension, super simple. First dimension is represented by a line. So one point to another point. You can think of this dimension as a point moving along a line. That means it's just traveling along a line. It's traveling on a specific pattern. The first dimension, although it is the simplest dimension, it is the dimension on which every other dimension is built upon. Now, even though we hear a lot about 9 dimensions, just know that there are more than 9 dimensions that can be explored and on which we can exist. So, the first dimension is a basic, simple line. When we're talking about the second dimension, now, the second dimension has to do, and let me say this in that first dimension, it's just a straight line. It doesn't have height, it doesn't have weight, it doesn't have breadth, it doesn't have depth, it doesn't have any of those things. It's just a flat line. Okay. Now, every other dimension from there is built onto that. So when we introduce the second dimension, the second dimension brings into account weight and height. And then you can think of this as a flat, kind of 2-dimensional plane, like a sheet of paper or like your computer or your phone screen. That's the easiest way to think of it. It's still flat, but it has some height to it and it definitely has some width to it. Okay. So that's the second dimension. Very flat still, but just a little bit more weight and height. Now, in this particular dimension, objects have some length and they have width, but they don't have any real depth. So, like I said, like a computer screen or like your phone screen, it has a little bit of height and a little bit of width, and it may have some weight, but it doesn't have any kind of depth or anything to it. So, like picture a flat triangle on a sheet of paper and it being 2-dimensional, right? Just like the first dimension, it adds depth to a point, and then the second dimension adds a new layer to like the first dimension. So think of these as building on to themselves, okay? So that should help you understand the first and the second dimension. Now let's talk about the third dimension, which it starts to become where we kind of live and understand. So now the third dimension introduces, you guessed it, depth. So when we're looking at the third dimension, it's pretty much the world, right? It has in addition to length and width, it also has depth, and it allows for objects to have volume as well. So now think about an object around you right now, like a phone, which has weight, or a book is another great example, or a cup or a bowl or a pot or a pan, right? They all exist on a three-dimensional plane or in a three-dimensional space. So the third dimension gives us this ability to start to perceive how deep something is, right? It has height and width at the same time. And then this makes for our reality to have solid, tangible things. Okay. So that's an explanation of your first, second, and third dimensions. You will see me do a separate video about the other dimensions, fourth through seventh, in this series. And you'll learn a lot more about how these dimensions add on to one another and how you can perceive different kinds of realities. I hope you've learned a lot in this video, and I look forward to continuing to be a part of your journey here. If you truly loved what you're seeing and you want to see more of this kind of information, make sure you hit the subscribe button, kind of like this.
Be sure to hit the subscribe button and make sure that you're staying abreast of everything on our channel, and be sure to turn on your notifications so that you know when we post new videos.
Listen, I never take the role of teacher lightly. It's been such a pleasure sharing time and space with you. Love and light, beautiful.